And Cindy Yu. Right, round two. What have we got? A different selection of stories this time. You're going to take us to the front page of The Times, Benjamin. More voters say migrants can never be truly British.
Yeah, so this is a poll conducted by IPPR, which is a centre-left think tank, that has found that in the last 2 years, the number of voters who think that in order to be British, you have to have been born here has doubled from 19 to 36%. And 59% of Reform UK voters believe that Britishness is an ethnic concept rather than simply one of citizenship. And I think this reflects a shift that we're seeing in attitudes. Some people would say that this raises concerns about racial tensions, about people being on the receiving end of racism who are British but aren't white British. And then it also says, it notes about the fact that people say that what makes you British in the main part of things like abiding the law, being an English speaker, unlike me apparently, but also going to church. Now, I have to say, church numbers are up, but most people don't go to church. So I think some of these measures, even those of us who are white British, would not meet. I mean, I don't know what your experience is.
About shared values, and a lot of people say about integration.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly. And I think this is such a shift from... I'm a first-generation immigrant. I wasn't born in the UK, but I do hold a British passport now, and that's my only citizenship. So this kind of survey makes me quite sad, really, because when I came to this country in 2004, you know, the definition of Britishness there was so much more open. You know, you had to... If you integrate, if you speak English, if you agree with British values, and you're law-abiding, great, then you're one of us, and you get the passport, fantastic. But now it's becoming this very gatekeeping way of looking at this identity. And I think it's important that we're saying it's Britishness, not Englishness, because I think for some people that can be a difference. I wouldn't call myself English, but I would call myself British. And it's dispiriting to see that increasingly more people would not say that of me.
In The Guardian, Cindy, you've picked this story. Humans must be ready to pull the plug on AI. Basically, don't give artificial intelligence too many rights. We need to have power over it. The other way around.
So this comes after a poll from the Sentience Institute, which is a US think tank, apparently found that nearly 4 in 10 US adults back legal rights for a sentient AI system. Now, I don't know how they define sentience, but this opens up a whole gamut of, you know, we're talking about animal rights, you know, in the last few decades, but now we're talking about AI rights as well. And a leading AI engineer, Joshua Bengio, has said that would be fatal for humanity because it means that you cannot pull the plug if AI became existentially threatening.
I mean, that's quite a frightening thought. It feels really futuristic. We've all seen films that subscribe to that way of thinking, but you never think it will be a reality. Yeah, there was Sam Altman, the man behind ChatGPT, was advertising in recent days for an expert who can pull the plug on ChatGPT if it goes out of control, a $500,000 a year role. Slightly alarming that that's a job being advertised for at this stage. You feel like surely that should have been thought of long ago, but it probably is. In truth, if we're looking to a new year, those are the kind of questions that are going to become far more pertinent to our lives. Will it be on the Prime Minister's 2026 to-do list, Benjamin?
There's a lot of things on the to-do list, namely stay in power. So this is the Guardian's roundup of what's going on with the Prime Minister next year. So one of the big things is that in May there'll be the local elections and there'll be a King's Speech. So he is apparently already planning his comeback for May after what is expected to be poor results for Labour. So things like Lords reform and immigration controls that aren't already in place. But it also notes that he will go into the new year the most unpopular Prime Minister in modern British history. And so his right-hand man, Morgan McSweeney in Downing Street, is saying this was meant to be a year of delivery, of proof about what they've been doing. I think that, you know, that would be optimistic. Things are still pretty stagnant. We talked to the last hour about how foreign investment isn't as high, employment is not great. And so you really wonder whether, if we're sat here in 12 months, whether he'll still be the Prime Minister.
I want to skip ahead to this story because we've been talking about this the last couple of days. The darts happening at Ali Pali. Not today, it takes a break, it's back tomorrow. Luke Littler was booed by fans at Ali Pali. He gave a reaction. He's only 80. He sort of turned around and said, look, you guys can boo all you want. You know, you paying for tickets pays for my prize money. And then he was criticised for that. The fans were being criticised for big boos. It all got a mess, but his mum's got involved.
His mum's got involved. I can't really say precisely which. So I'll read out as much as I can. So she said on Twitter, so they buy tickets with their hard-earned money to sit there like expletive I won't repeat, and boo, thumbs up emoji, sarcastically, presumably. And I think, you know, this is something that mothers of high-profile figures all over the world will have felt, you know, like, oh, you know, that's my baby, you're being so mean to him, because we actually stop seeing these high-profile people as real people with actual feelings.
And he is only 18.
Yes, exactly.
An 18-year-old at the pinnacle of his sport being booed by fans. I mean, you can't imagine what that must feel like.
If he dishes it back out, then you need to be able to take it, you know. You can't expect that just to be a one-way street. I mean, there's another question over whether or not it's the way to stop that kind of negative reaction. It probably isn't the best way to stop it. But, you know, fans can't be offended if they're going to be, you know, treating him like that. And the sports people, you know, we've seen from Djokovic, for example, during Wimbledon, when he deliberately calls out the fans for saying, you know, you're booing me or you're really being rude right now. And it is something that actually in certain sports, in certain cultures perhaps, that there is a particular culture of letting that kind of negative.
But it's interesting that, you know, Luke Littler got a lot of flack for criticising the fans, more so than perhaps the fans did for booing.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they're meant to just sort of be grateful for the attention, opportunity and money that it gets. I mean, it seems in poor taste, to be honest. But then on the flip...
He's winning. It's not like he lost a match. He was winning.
On the flip side, you could also say, you know, the sort of, you know, the money that he's made, the fame that he's got, the sort of long-term security that he's already earned from his skill, well, that's the same as any other very famous person, very successful person. And so, you know, should the fact he's young be a mitigating factor, or should he just deal with, you know, what every other sports star probably deals with?
Yeah, Keith Deller, the 1983 world champion in The Star, saying, you know, he's backed Luke Littler, saying he's done so much for our sport. He's got a man's head that's 40 years old with all that experience that he's packed in over the last 18 months on the, you know, the shoulders of an 18-year-old's body. Well, Luke Littler goes again in the darts at Ali Pali. Let's see how that plays out. I'm sure all eyes will be on there. We are going to talk now about New Year hangovers. Benjamin, I really wanted to get this story in because a few people
at darts,
mentioning any names. Yeah, some of the darts fans might be dealing with it today. But there'll be a few New Year's hangovers tomorrow, no doubt.
So don't have a fry-up. That is the lesson. Okay. So some nutritionists that have spoken to the Daily Mail say that the UK and US foods, so the American breakfast or the British fry-up, are the worst things because it gets your hydration worse. What you need...
Too salty.
Yeah, you need miso soup, Japanese miso soup. There's a Swedish vegetable and fish soup. Those kind of things with electrolytes are what you need. And actually, a lot of what we go for as British people, you know, sausages, bacon, hashed browns, everything I'll be wanting at, you know, this time tomorrow morning, they tire you out and you need the hydration.
Well, listen, I feel like I do this story every year on a paper review, and eggs is always a good one, apparently. That'll probably be better for your stomach would turn if you had to have miso soup maybe on a hangover. My top tip, I always have ready sorted hula hoops and a can of Coke, Red Ambulance, I call it.
But I thought Coke was dehydrating. Fizzy drinks were dehydrating.
A bit of sugar and the salt from the hula hoops that balances out. Anyway, you know, it's not scientific, but it's just my top tip. Whatever you do this New Year, treat your hangover with respect and maybe have some miso soup. Guys, thank you. See you the next hour, and we'll be back after the break.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?